Hey guys, what's going on? So I have not had a podcast out in a while. I've had a lot of people ask me about where they're at, what I'm doing with them, things like that. So I'm restarting the podcast. It's the official first one back. I'm going to start getting into you regularly and getting them out more often, at least once a week. Got a lot of good guests lined up. So this podcast is centrally around the Rapid City Black Hills area, people that are local, people that are business owners, leaders, innovators, people doing things in our community. And then also just people, I have people on this I like talking to that are awesome people. So that's kind of what the podcast will be centralized around. I have my first one coming back to you today with my good friend Dale Fewson. He is a financial advisor in town here, but he used to be a coffee shop owner of a coffee shop in Australia and here in Rapid City. So he has a really cool story coming up into what he's doing now. So anyways, I'll get them to you much more regularly now, guys, at least once a week. So without further ado, welcome back to the podcast. Here's my good friend Dale Fewson.
Yeah, I grew up, I guess at the core of me is always about how do I help people. That's always, seems to be always my agenda with interacting with people, is getting to know them and then going, how can I, in the tools and the skills that I've got, help you? And that happens, organically, pretty much through just talking with people and getting to know them. And so for 12 years it was really hospitality, coffee, and building a network of people. That it went further than coffee too. So a coffee shop is the great melting pot of the community. So you get to know people and you can connect people with other people. And
like Starbucks, I think what they train their employees is they want it to be like their second home. Starbucks is their second home.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's kind of that way for coffee shops.
Yeah.
I don't think Starbucks feels that way, but I think other places do.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But then Starbucks, their business model is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. So take me back. You, where were you raised?
So raised in Perth, Australia. It's on the southwest, on the west coast.
Yep.
And fun fact, it is the most isolated capital city in the world.
What does that mean?
It means the nearest capital city of the state is, I think it's Jakarta, Indonesia. So it's a totally different country.
Interesting, yeah.
It's closer. Adelaide is the capital of South Australia. That's the closest Australian capital city.
Okay.
And that one takes, I think it's like a 3-4 hour flight to get to.
Dang, yeah, that's pretty far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like here where you've got a puddle jump from here to Denver.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So grew up in Perth, Australia. Had family here growing up, so made the choice to move over here, and really.
So I know you started a coffee shop, or you bought a coffee shop. I can't remember, in Perth.
Yep.
To talk me through that.
The first coffee shop was 2006.
Yep.
Bought what I'd call a rundown coffee shop.
Okay.
So if you're talking housing.
And before you bought this, you weren't in business, right?
No. So I was in college studying accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Hated it. So dropped out and bought the coffee shop to flip. And, it really started with a passion for coffee and pursuing what quality coffee looked like.
Yeah.
And the first day we made 97 cups of coffee.
That doesn't seem too bad. Is it?
Well, when you consider you've got, I think the demographics was in a 3-block radius. You've got 100,000 people.
Okay.
So you think 97 of those 100,000 people
came to your coffee shop.
Shop.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that was a client base that we inherited, and then the day we sold it was 3 years later, and we did 450 coffees a day.
Is that pretty good?
That's kind of in your from a kind of a independent coffee shop perspective. That's in a city would be like a medium sized
coffee
shop. Yeah. So the big players in the high traffic areas would be doing 700 a day.
Oh dang. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
So in the meantime, before selling that, started roasting our own coffee. So it was the next wave of small coffee shop roasters. Before that, it was you'd have wholesale coffee roasters and you'd have coffee shops.
Gotcha.
And so we bought a roaster and started roasting our own, and then outgrew the garage. The typical started in the garage on a card table.
Yeah.
Roasting during the night so we didn't disturb the neighbors. And then set up another coffee shop from scratch down the road to house the roaster.
Did you make money from that sale when you sold that? Or not really?
We did.
A little bit?
Just trying to think, it was back 2010.
But you didn't lose money on it?
Didn't lose money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a bit of a gain on it. And then we set up another coffee shop across the road from what would be a Starbucks equivalent. So it's called Dome Cafe over there, and they were the pioneers of specialty coffee, just like Starbucks was.
Okay.
Their business model.
Is there Starbucks in Australia?
There's a handful.
Okay. Not a lot?
No, Perth has never had a Starbucks ever. And so, Australia didn't welcome Starbucks all that much.
So I remember you told me this one time. You told me that in America we have coffee in a different way than there. You said like here we have like cups of coffee.
Yeah.
And that doesn't exist there, right?
No. So over here, like the drip coffee.
Yeah.
Is the standard. Now
like what everybody drinks.
It's what everyone drinks. Yeah. Australia, coming from a heavy European heritage. Italian, Greek, that sort of thing. So the espresso is really the foundation. So you'll have flat whites, lattes, or Americano if you're going to have black coffee.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's more common to see the home espresso machines in people's houses instead of the drip.
That must be why most of the espresso machines for household ones are made in other countries.
Yeah, definitely.
That must be why. I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so you started this, you put the roaster in this other coffee shop.
Yeah, so we unintentionally put it across the road from this Dome coffee shop. And their business model is, your coffee, but then they also had like pre-packed foods, kind of like your TV dinners. Yeah. So they have a kitchen, but it's mostly pre-made that they heat up and serve.
Okay.
They replate and serve it. So there was still, again, like that Italian community cafe style. So we moved across the road just to get the roaster in a place that we could have more capacity.
Yeah.
And so but then we set up a little kitchen and did some eggs and bacon out of it. And so we found that on Sundays across the road, they'd have a line out the door. And so then the new coffee shop across the road opens up and they're like, oh, let's go check that out instead of waiting in line for half an hour. And so that was our marketing, basically.
Okay.
And we kind of impressed people with simple breakfasts and really good coffee. And over time, the line ended up becoming at our door on Sunday morning, and Dome would get our overflow.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So from a record perspective, I think Father's Day was our busiest day ever, and we did 750 coffees. That was just a crazy day.
That was the busiest ever?
Busiest
you
ever.
can remember?
Yeah. So never
what was
cracked
an
that
average
1,000.
day?
Average day, that coffee shop was in the suburbs, so it was very distinct. You had your weekday trade and your weekend trade. So you'd do Saturday, Sunday, you'd do like 50% of your weekly sales.
Okay.
And then during the week, it was just steady.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so you did this. Yeah, this coffee shop. What was it called?
The Roastery.
It's still there, right?
Yep, still there today.
That's cool. So from that, what took you to come to Rapid?
So wanted to move here, and had a granddad here growing up, and so familiar with the area. Wanted to pursue the American culture of things, and had the opportunity to, and jumped in.
How long ago was that?
That was 6 years ago.
Okay.
August 2014.
And then it wasn't until this year that you got citizenship, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
So,
took you 6 years?
It took 6 years.
Yeah. That's cool, though. It's cool that you finally got it, so to speak. Do you have dual citizenship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can go back to Australia, too.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so you got here, and then you immediately opened up.
So yeah, we tried to open up just a roastery and introducing people to a higher quality of roasted coffee with the goal to just get into people's homes. And here, more people make coffee at home than in Australia.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And so but I think because it's drip and it's easy.
Yeah.
In Australia, people are like, I'll just go to the coffee shop and get one.
So since coming here, do you like drip coffee more?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
My go-to now is black
drip
coffee. Yep.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. So okay, so you come here, and how long from you moving here did you decide to open Essence?
It was pretty much in the pipelines, moving over, so it was kind of happening simultaneously.
Okay. So you got that figured out.
Yeah.
And then was it tough for you to build up a coffee shop here?
It was. I think Rapid being a small city, it's very very small town, country feel.
Yeah.
And, I was speaking to my wife the other day. It seems that people like you've got the new what's it, Fleet Farm in town.
Yeah, Fleet Farm. Yeah.
If something's big and popular, as soon as they open, everyone goes there.
Yeah.
But if you're small, independent, people tend to be
they wait.
They wait.
Yeah.
They're more wary. And
you're probably right.
So we had speaking with a funny accent as well. I found people standoffish to begin with. It was a slower, it was a novelty.
Yeah.
I love your accent.
Yeah.
But from a business perspective, it was slow to get moving.
So when you started, I know you said that other coffee shop you bought was like 97 cups a day.
Yeah.
What did you start at here?
It was like 8 coffees
really?
a day. Yeah. It was terrible. And there wasn't until then I started realizing that we can't just tell people about quality coffee. We had to show people. And that's when we moved downtown, had a couple retiring that had a coffee shop. So we took that over and then began the process of really evangelizing coffee.
Yeah.
And that's when we really kind of took off locally.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, so you got into coffee here, and then talk about your transition from coffee to what you're doing now.
Yeah, so as I said before, my mantra really is with the coffee it was making someone's day just a little bit better. It's how do you interact with someone and have them leave that interaction better off than when they came. And so my first career pathway was financial planning. I was moving in that direction before I went to accounting and then into business. And so I had the opportunity to, after 12 years in the coffee business, look for a different avenue. And so financial planning was really one of the first things I went to. And so after a long year of testing, and I pretty much went into a cave the last year.
Yeah, you did.
And pissed off friends that like, hey, let's hang out. And,
yeah.
So for me, it's like the realization that finance is a pretty taboo subject. A lot of people don't like.
I don't know why that is, but it definitely is a taboo subject. You're right. People's money, they're scared to talk about it.
Exactly, and whether it's embarrassment or whatever.
Yeah.
So for me, my passion is to help people, and I see a huge need for being able to engage people in this area without needing to be feel awkward.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. So for you on the financial side of things, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? Because you've been really in it, studying and stuff like that. What do you think is going to happen on the financial side of things?
It's a tough.
What are you banking on personally? What are you gonna? I don't know if you can say. What are you gonna? what are you banking on as far as like, okay, I'm going to put my money into this or this? What do you think for you?
On
Really?
on the,
Stupid.
for it is the best thing.
So I know there's like kind of like a lot of different avenues you can do, but like let's say you wanted to like so if I wanted to financially plan, right, get a financial plan together, and I was to get with like a financial advisor or whatever, could they, like, this is something I've thought about before, could they get together with me and be like, I'd be like, okay, I want to put this amount of money in an IRA, IUL, all that kind of stuff or whatever, and then I also want to buy this amount of real estate. Could they help me with like the plan of that?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A good financial advisor wants to get involved in a holistic approach.
Got it. So like saving money, getting into real estate, and then doing transaction with them also.
Yeah.
Do you think, because that's kind of what I want to do right now. I have some things going on, but there's more that I want to get going, you know? And then, how, you know, in your opinion, how old are you now? 32?
34.
34. So you're 34. At what age do you wish you would have? Hundred thousands, I would think.
Yeah.
Probably a good chance of that. Just $50 a month. You know what I mean? And I feel like almost anybody, if they really had any kind of discipline, can figure out $50 a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get a little bit less nice of a car, or only get Starbucks once a day instead of twice a day, or whatever. For real though, you know. Yeah, I was listening to who was it? It was a financial guy. I can't remember his name, but he was talking about if you were to invest $1,200 a year for like 7 years, from the time 18 to whatever, 25, right? Is that 7 years? Yeah.
Yep.
From 18 to 25, that if you just invested $1,200 a year in that period, and he was estimating a 10% return, by the time you were 52, you'd have like, it was like 300 grand just from that $1,200 a year. And I was like, that's pretty crazy, just from 7 years of investing.
Yeah.
$1,200 for 7 years.
That's doable.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know. I think I wish I would have. And I heard this since I was 18, and I didn't do anything about it.
Yeah. It hurts on the back end.
Yeah, it does. What do you feel about life insurance? You think it's like a necessity?
Sorry?
Life insurance, is it a necessity?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I mean, this is really where you want to come and see me and
right,
and go through that.
Yeah.
But that you want to protect for the unforeseen.
Yeah.
You don't want to fall back into a different stage of life where you're at.
Well, I think most people don't know about is like IULs or something similar to that, which I know you probably can't explain, but I will. Basically, what an IUL is it doubles as life insurance and an investment, right? So, like for me, I spend $150 a month into this IUL, and if I were to die, it'd be $200,000 in life insurance or something like that for my family. But it also works as an investment account that after I turn a certain age pays me back like 50 grand a year at some point. I think it's like at 60 or something like that. But yeah, so I've had that for a few years now, and that's one thing that I'm like, I don't know why everybody doesn't do something like this, because you can choose, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can choose how much you put into an IUL, right? Mm-hmm. However, I don't know if there's a cap to how much you can put in, or if there's a floor, like you can't put in less than this, but yeah, I thought that was like a really cool program.
Yeah.
But then also that in IRAs, most people can put money in IRA, and I don't know. And one thing I think everybody should do personally is buy some kind of property that they can get rent off of. The only thing you have to do is save up your first down payment.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you could just even keep that one property or whatever. But especially if you're in, a market like ours, which right now we're having crazy numbers with inflation or not appreciation and stuff. But normally we're at like 3.5 to 4% appreciation a year, which is so steady that if you just bought something, someone else is paying your mortgage payment on it.
Yeah,
you're only paying whatever your down payment was, which could be like 3%.
So is the appreciation, does it beat inflation or
3.5%?
Yeah,
pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. It does
Okay.
beat it. What's inflation, like 1.5, 2%?
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think it's 1.5% or 2. We could look it up, but that's what I think it is. Anyways, but yeah, right now it's destroying inflation. Inflation, because we've had like 9 to 10% appreciation over the last 3 years, 2-3 years. So that's crushing it, literally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think everybody should be getting into that kind of stuff on some level, just like some kind of safety net of, okay, at least no matter what, I have this at the end. I have a couple $100,000 here, or a couple $100,000 here, or whatever. I read a stat one time that something like 40% of the population's retirement plans is winning the lottery. And I'm like,
wow.
What? You know what I mean? Like, cool if you do, but I don't know, man. I'd rather, me personally, it's like a peace of mind thing to know that I have something else to fall back on if I have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyways, but you think this upcoming election is going to affect anything in the financial world? Probably will, right?
I can't really speak to the financial world, but the world in general, it's, from the outside looking in, not being from here culturally, it's just, to me, it's a phenomenon seeing Trump have such a cult fan following. Like I've never before seen flags of other presidents or president elects.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
Yeah, so it's kind of like but then is it really a sign of the times with the rise of social media and how now it's easier for people to people in power or position to interact with more people on a unique level. Like, Trump's on Twitter all the time.
Yeah.
So he's able to engage the individual a lot more personally.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. People probably feel like they know him more, but also he was such a popular person before he ran for president that he already had like a fan base.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I personally feel like that fan base just kind of carried over.
Yeah.
There's so many people that hate politicians, it seems like.
Yeah. And
so he's just kind of like an F you to politicians, you know? So like, if you're pro-Trump, you're F politicians, kind of. I kind of feel like that's how people think anyways. I think depending on who wins the election, the financial world could be completely shaken up, personally. The real estate world could be for sure too, depending on who wins. It could get crazier, busier and busier here, depending on who wins, and it could slow down a little bit, I think, depending on who wins it. But from an outsider's perspective, what do you focus? Do you focus on politics, or do you not really care about it?
I do more now than I did before.
Why? Because you're a citizen?
No, I think like even in Australia, I didn't follow politics all that much. So I don't know if it's just the life phases you go through, and you kind of start thinking about it more, and I thinking more of a long-term perspective. Okay, I'm going to hang out here. Do I need a contingency plan to have, a lot of land in Mexico or Panama or or a safety net or an escape, and what are the chances of that going to be? And, looking at it from that diversification or that protection, and if it hits the fan, am I safe here?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think in Rapid City, I would say yes.
I think so.
I would say you're probably good here.
Yeah. So politically, I guess starting to think more from a long-term perspective. I'm not old, but the older you get, you seem to be more you see how much time is limited, and so you're like, okay, well, and I have one voice amongst many, and what difference can I make?
Yeah.
And so politically, at the end of the day, for me, it's like you make the most of what is, and I don't know if that's just the entrepreneurial spirit where you're like, whatever environment we're in, we'll just make it work and take advantage of what we can take advantage of, and but then if you have a voice to control that, it's worth putting
that makes sense. It does make sense. What are politics like in Australia? Is it like, do you vote for people? I don't even know. Do you vote for people there?
It's a same like democracy.
Okay.
It is a monarchy, so we're still the queen.
What does that mean?
The queen is still the head of state, but it's
she has the final say.
No, not really. It's more just the figurehead these days.
Okay. Because the prime minister.
The prime minister,
the real control, right?
Yeah, is the leader of the country, and the difference is that
prime minister is elected.
Yeah, okay. But the difference is the party is elected, not the prime minister. So the party elects the leader to represent the party, and you vote
which party you want.
Which party?
And what are the parties in Australia?
So you've got
Is there a few?
There's like two main parties and then a third player. So you got Liberal.
Does the third party ever win?
No, so that's the Greens.
Okay,
the Greens
like
are the third.
Yeah.
And then you got Liberal and Labor. So Labor are the Democratic equivalent.
Okay.
I might get
whatever. Just say what you think. That's fine.
But Labor is the Democrat equivalent, and then Liberal, which is the Republican.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite terminology.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's confusing explaining it.
Who is in control right now?
I have no idea.
Really?
I
think it's the Labor. I feel like I heard Labor Party recently.
I think so too.
I could be wrong, but. So you elect the party, and the party chooses who's going to lead.
Yeah. So obviously the leader of the party you're voting for, but you'll also have times where I think the Labor Party back in around 2007 to 2010, they had one leader, and then they just kicked him out and put someone else in, and that happens.
So they can do that.
They can do that, yeah.
And people don't have to vote on it or anything.
No, not it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I think. I don't know. I feel like we're kind of doing the same thing here, really. We say we vote for somebody, but really you're voting for the party.
Yeah.
Except for this election. I feel like everybody's voting against Trump, it seems like.
Yeah.
That's all people care about. Yeah, I think really here, if you really get down to it, you're really voting for the beliefs of that party.
Yeah.
I kind of think the monarchy thing's kind of cool that it's still a thing, but I feel like it doesn't really doesn't seem like it holds much weight.
Not yeah. Not at all.
Because isn't there a prime minister everywhere?
In England,
there's an
England prime minister.
And is that elected too? Or do you know?
It's elected. And
interesting. Does the Queen ever go to Australia?
I mean, she's 90 something
now. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. But yeah, so they'll have the royal family does their visits. And
that's kind of cool though. So politically, you're voting for
a party.
Or your leaders.
What are my values and beliefs, and what political party?
Well, I tell you what, man. We
holds
have
those.
What time is it here?
But then someone's like, "Well, yes, that's true, but what about the leader?
30 minutes
and their moral?
You want to wrap it up, or you want to keep going? What do you think?
And their morals.
Yeah, it's up to you.
And
anything else you want to touch on before we go?
How can you vote in a leader of a party that you might value? The question I have, the beliefs. I don't have an answer to it. Party. Someone's, but if they're a liar a couple of weeks ago, whatever. When you're voting, like Trump, he's like I've always thought you vote for the values of the party. How could you vote for someone so evil? If you align
pause
more,
1 second.
and then Biden, I don't know. I think they're all the same.
Yeah, same here.
But yeah, so how much? What do you think? How much does that play?
To me personally, dude, I vote for the way I vote is based off of what the party stands for. Personally, not to say I don't really pay attention to the candidates, because I do. I pay more attention to the candidates locally than I do presidency and stuff. Mainly because I feel like presidency is really just a popularity contest.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, there's certain things that would affect me very negatively if certain people won presidency. Me personally negatively, my family negatively. But I personally vote for the presidency based off of what their party stands for, but I also look at what I look a little bit into what they stand for. Just an example, like, I'm a Christian, and I've been raised a Christian my whole life. And so there's certain things I don't believe in morally that are legally allowed in this country. And so, like, for me, it's tough to justify voting for certain things that a certain party would push.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then, like you're saying, there's sometimes candidates have stuff that I really disagree with how they are personally. Like Trump, for example, I wish he would shut up sometimes, be more of a leader, less of a crybaby, more of a leader. But yeah, I feel like we're at an interesting time in our country. And one thing that I've always studied history, and so one thing that I notice about our country right now is that we are definitely in a period of our country disintegrating from its core beliefs and what made it great. We're definitely in that period of it falling apart.
Yeah.
And usually in history, that takes hundreds of years. And so it probably will take like 50 to 100 years, but maybe shorter with, social media and stuff. I don't know how that's going to affect it.
Yeah.
But we're definitely in the Epicurean phase of our country. Nations are born stoic and they die Epicurean. Have you heard that before?
Yep.
We're definitely in the Epicurean phase. That's for sure. And people are like, man, if Trump doesn't win, our country's doomed, And I'm like, well, if he doesn't win, or if let's say he does win and they think that's going to save us, right? It might be better for a couple of years. It might hold on for a little bit longer, but the long and short of it is our country is very Epicurean right now. Yeah. And it's not going to get better. Him winning is not going to make our country stronger. Yeah. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
Do I think if Biden won, it would make it deteriorate faster? Yeah, I do. But I don't think in the overall scope of it, it's going to affect anything much, no matter who wins, personally.
Yeah.
I think the populace of the people are the ones who control the nation for the most part.
Yeah.
And so just seeing what I have, I don't think the majority of people are not Epicurean, but we're on the path that leads to that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't have a negative outlook on our future. I don't. I think I get still excited about the future. I'm not worried about it. I still think you're really in control of yourself.
Yeah.
I think for a long time it's going to be that way. I don't look at it like, oh my God, our country's done for.
Yeah.
I don't see that way at all. I just see it's going to be a change. So
yeah, you can't.
I think people have realized during all this time though how much your local people matter.
Yeah, you can't put all of your hopes and dreams in legislation and government.
Yeah,
like if people change individually, whether they accept new beliefs, that will change the country.
Yeah. Let's be real. If you hate Trump and you're like, oh my God, he can't win, and he wins, what is that going to change about your life? Nothing, just that your team lost. That's really what it is, right? Yeah. So you're going to cry about it for a little bit. And then if you just get yourself together and go live your life, you're going to realize, oh, nothing's really changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then from the opposite side of that, if you're like, oh my God, if Biden wins, we're screwed. Biden wins, just go live your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can really only affect yourself. You can't really change all that shit. So, although people are trying to change that stuff right now, that's for sure. They're trying to use their platforms and stuff to sway people and, get who they want elected, which whatever they want to do, I guess. But yeah, I think you got to control yourself and stop worrying about that stuff personally. I think people worry about it way too much. And dude, I really get into politics. Like, I am really dumbing down my opinions right now. That's for sure. Mainly because I'm not politically, I feel like I'm not smart enough to really argue a good point with all the facts because I don't have enough time to research it all.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna put out there what I think because I don't think it matters. I think you should listen to people that are smarter than me. But yeah, no, I think when it comes down to it, I personally look at it as you just control your own life. No matter who wins the election, I'm gonna be neutral either way in my head. I'm not gonna be emotional. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I do care a little bit, but I'm not going to be like, oh, this is going to ruin my life, or, oh, this is going to make my life better, because it really just comes down to me and my discipline and my habits and what I do every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was a weird way of answering your question, but I went off on a rant there a little bit.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I'd like. I just finished reading. Was it General Mattis' book? What's that one?
Mad Dogs.
Yeah, what's that book called?
It's called. I can't remember now.
Call Sign Bravo.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, like
Great book.
Yeah, awesome book. He talks about being, taking pride in that nobody knows his political stance, and he tries to remain politically neutral and each election cycle, I guess, and really look at it from a case by case basis. And some years the Democrat might be the better option. And for me, I think not being a fence sitter, but also not being I don't know if the term here like is toe the party line. It was really, I'm born a Republican, I'm going to die a Republican.
Yeah, right.
But if the Republican values or what they're pushing aligns with what I believe, then I'll vote that way, or the Democratic. And
if you were to like look into categories, I'm probably technically a libertarian.
I think me too.
Yeah. Technically, that's where I stand mostly as libertarian. Leave me alone, or I'll leave you alone. Yeah. Basically, let me live my life, you live your life, kind of deal. That's kind of how I am. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, even on that, the some of the moral debates you can really have on that level is how much do you legislate other people, and that to me is a really fascinating subject.
Good point.
Subject is, you got pro-choice, I think is the politically correct term.
Oh yeah, pro-choice, pro-life.
Pro-life, and that is where do you legislate? Like what do you enforce? And that one I won't get into.
Yeah.
But yeah, so how far do you go from a government perspective in controlling people's lives? Where does it matter, and where does it not matter? Yeah. That's an interesting thing to ponder.
Yeah. It's a good question, though. You know what I mean? Like, really, how much should we be involved in other people's lives? Yeah. Yeah, but then I think a lot of the church's arguments is, or a lot of the churches that speak how they actually feel anyways, their argument is, if you don't say anything, you allow these babies to die. Yeah. That's like their argument about it. And that is kind of, I've never really thought of it that way, but it's like, how do you go about that,
Yeah. I heard someone, getting into that topic, I heard someone the other day I was chatting with, and they said, that choice shouldn't be given to old white men. Yeah. And basically talking about lawmakers. It should be the mother's choice. And for me, I think it really comes down to that question of life. Is this a life or not? Yeah. And, I think that's a cop out.
It's not even a weird debate to me, honestly. Yeah. Like, to me, honestly, I'm 100% pro-life. Yeah. Like, I don't really care. You can try to argue stuff with me, but I personally just, I'm pro-life, but also not to say I don't. It's tough for me because I'm not going to tell somebody what to do either. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you want to do that and you feel like it's the right thing to do, and sometimes it's like, the health of the mother or other circumstances, like nasty circumstances.
The exceptions.
The exceptions, I'm like, hell yeah. That should be a thing. It's crazy cool that we have that technology to be able to do that, But I think just out of convenience, it's pretty messed up in my opinion. Yeah. Like, I just don't want to deal with this right now, or I want to get rid of it or whatever. And I don't look down on anybody for doing that. I just think for me, it would be messed up if I made that decision. Yeah. And ultimately, I could never make that decision because I'm not a woman. Yeah. So, but
I think we need to get to a place where we have a platform where we can share and own our own opinions. Yeah. But also not have them forced upon other people. Yeah. For me, it's that you're talking about.
There's probably a majority of people that listen to this are like, you freaking idiot. Me, pro-life. Who cares? You're stupid. Whatever. I don't care. I get it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I feel that way about a lot of other people's opinions. Yeah. So I would understand that. But
like the racism issue that's happening at the moment, like my fix for it is that we need to each individual needs to be able to have a place of a safe place of pride that they have in their heritage, where they come from, who they are. But then also know that God created us all equal. We're humans, and we just all look different. But we need to be able to have a place that we have pride in where we come from.
Dude, I feel like I would never even think about race if people didn't bring it up all the time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. Like, I'm like, God, I've never even had these discussions with anybody. Yeah. Like, I've never had anybody mention it really. Yeah. And now we talk about it all the time in politics. And, it's weird.
I'll probably get trolled for saying it, but like, the whole anti-racist thing. Yeah. It's like, if someone saying I'm not racist is racist. And I haven't looked too deep into that, but for me, like, I never really...
Oh, instead of saying, if you just say you're not racist, you're racist, but if you're anti-racist, then you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I really grew up in a community that wasn't racist. Mm-hmm. And so moving over here, yes, there is racism in Australia.
Right.
But moving over here and seeing how delicate a topic it is...
it's weird, huh?
It just blows my mind. I find it difficult to fathom that... a white person is automatically racist.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones in quote power or have been in power.
Yeah. I don't get it at all personally. Yeah. Like I said, like me and my friends, like you, and we've never even talked about stuff like this. Yeah. And then now all of a sudden,
you feel like you have to.
Yeah, you feel like they want to make you feel guilty for stuff. It's just strange, dude. I heard I'm not going to get into that. I'll leave. We've said enough controversial things probably. But anyways, I don't know how we got into politics, but I enjoy talking about politics, so I enjoyed it. Let's wrap this one up. We're going to have to do a follow-up of one. We need to do a follow-up of one and make it like a couple hours probably.
Yep.
But we had short on time. We had a bunch of mishaps that caused us to go short. So anyways, man, thanks for coming.
No worries.
Guys, if you got questions about politics, no, I'm just kidding. If you got questions about financial stuff, want to get things going like I am currently, I'd highly suggest at least getting initial meeting going and getting things going financially for you and your family. You could reach out to Dale about that. We'll put all your info in here, but is that okay if they reach out to you?
Definitely.
I definitely would at least get a kind of a idea of what to do, where to go, even if you only have a little bit a month to put into it. I would get started now personally. So. Yeah.
Laying down that roadmap is the most important thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Dale. Thanks, man.
No worries.
See you guys later.
See ya.